So do you even know what the pelvic floor is?
Not really. I know of a general anatomical region.
What do you think women could communicate differently so that their husbands truly get how much they're struggling?
We need extreme clarity. So if you're having an issue, it needs to be clearly communicated.
Not making it a side comment like, oh, I talked to somebody today about my pelvic floor, because I had a baby. That is not having a more direct, serious conversation about it.
If it's an invisible condition,
right,
and you're not making it known or you're downplaying it,
right, because women do that. Women will
then
downplay
he's
it.
going to totally just push it to the side. It's just a matter of having the conversation because he's going to support you.
Welcome back to the What About Mom podcast. Today, I even brought my husband into the studio to ask him a couple questions because after spending the last 4 years speaking directly with women and mothers, expecting mothers in pregnancy, postpartum moms, about healing their pelvic floor and core, one of the main things that continues to come up over and over and over again is either their husband is not supportive, their husband doesn't quite know what's going on, or we get to that point in the conversation just before they're about to join our program and they say, I need to think about it. Let me go talk to my husband. So I figured, what a better time to actually bring in my husband, because obviously I've had 2 babies myself, and I'd love to bring in the male husband perspective to ask a couple questions. So I have Robert here today.
Hello.
He's very nervous.
But I am a husband.
But I am a husband. Okay, perfect. So I actually am going to keep this super easy for you because I know you're, what is it? You're like black and white, right? Very analytical. Is that?
Yeah, I don't talk much.
So this is actually perfect if your husband's like, I don't know, just give me the details, the numbers, like this is my husband.
I can do that. Yes.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, before I actually dive into the questions, so now I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Perfect. Okay.
Let's do it. I feel like the first time that you and I really had to have a big conversation around birth was when I wanted to do a home birth for my very first, for our very first baby, right?
Yeah.
For first pregnancy. I was like, let's do a home birth. And he was like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
And you're like, that sounds scary. Walk me through that experience. Walk me through that experience from your perspective, because we did end up planning a home birth for that one. Even though, if you know my story, we ended up having a long labor, transfer to the hospital, C-section for the first birth. Second baby, we did end up having a VBAC at home. I ended up having a successful home birth. But I'm curious, because this is also a hot topic for husbands when their wives want to bring home birth and the discussion of home birth into the conversation for labor.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about the whole experience or just my thoughts on home birth when you brought it to me?
Yeah, like when I brought up the idea of like, let's do a home birth, like how did you feel? What were your first reactions? And then obviously having a home birth experience, like tell me more about what that was like for you as a husband.
Well, I didn't even know what a home birth was. I mean, other than having birth at home, but I mean, whether it's you see it in movies or just growing up, I think the general consensus is you have birth in a hospital. So not doing a whole lot of research on my own or whatever the case is, I just assume that that's where you have kids. When you are pregnant and you're about to deliver, you go to the hospital and you get a room, and that's
get a
like
room?
the option. That's
Totally.
what it is.
Yeah.
So when you suggested wanting to have a home birth, I think I've always been relatively open-minded.
Yeah.
Especially to those subjects that you are interested in or you do a lot more research than I. So I just kind of defer to you to understand, okay, well, tell me a little bit more about that.
You had more questions.
What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are the pros? Because the biggest thing in my mind is it going to be more risky having a birth at home versus having or giving birth in a hospital where you have all these doctors and nurses around?
Totally.
So just from a concern standpoint, or wondering, hey, is this going to be safe? Is this a safe alternative?
I think that's so common for men specifically, right? Because you're like, want to be the protector. You want to make sure your lady is safe and all of the things. So immediately, like your thought goes into oh my gosh, that sounds crazy. Is that actually safe? What are the risks and everything like that? So
Right.
knowing that that's typically probably like if you are bringing, home birth to your husband or a different birth alternative, or maybe your birth desires. Maybe you do plan to want to birth in the hospital, but you have specific, goals or desires, just anything, bringing it to your partner and spouse. They're probably first going to think about, is that safe, right? Because they want to protect you. They love you. It's not typically coming from like a negative perspective, right?
No, I think if anything, they're looking at it from the stance of that puts a little bit more ownership on me because like
Mhm.
I'm at home. What am I going to do? I'm not a trained professional. Like, what am I going to do if you need help?
Right.
Who's going to be there? Because if it's not a doctor or nurse in a hospital, like who's going to give birth at home?
Mhm.
Men just don't think about that. I shouldn't say all men, but we're not
You didn't think
researching it.
about
We're
it.
not, we're not thinking about it. So, I mean, deferring to you to help educate and inform me around what it was. Is this safe? Okay, well, yeah, I think I'm open to it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing that you bring up is like typically if you haven't done the research, like you might just defer back to me. So it's really about like my delivery, how I communicate it, how confident am I
Exactly. Your
delivering it?
confidence more than anything is
Right.
because you're the one giving birth. I'm just there as a support system more than anything.
Totally.
So if you're confident in it, then I would say that that's going to go a long way.
Do you feel like what was the moment that you were like, okay, I'm in? Was it when you actually scheduled an appointment with the midwife to learn more about it directly from her, ask all your questions, get your concerns answered?
I don't remember. I mean, that was a while ago. I don't remember the exact moment.
Or
But
the second birth, right? Our first son is 6, so that was a while ago for the first one. But then,
well, the second one was just so much better in many ways. But the first one, I think, yeah, probably having a consultation with the midwife, a series of meetings with her over the length of your pregnancy leading up to it, just feeling very secure and comforted in her expertise and her knowledge. And I think that went a long way, knowing that it wasn't going to be all on me, that, hey, there was a professional team that does this,
yeah.
Day in and day out.
Mhm.
And I'm just there to, offer support or kind of fill in wherever is needed.
Yeah.
But that there was a plan. Like if anything, there was a plan in place.
Yeah.
To make sure that you were going to be successful.
Yeah. Cool. I love that. Okay, we can pivot back to the questions. But I feel like that does tie in really well into, how women are communicating and delivering and sharing and bringing their partner in to their pelvic floor and core recovery, into their birth prep process and pregnancy, and to the postpartum or the return to strength process. Because I think oftentimes like mothers feel really alone in that process. Especially if they're not in the practice of looping in their partner and being able to have those open conversations and be able to openly communicate their needs clearly. So
Yeah.
I know that you and I worked on that a lot.
For sure.
I
Yeah.
think I'm naturally too like more of an open, direct person as a woman and as a mother. So I'm sure that's helped. But even over the years, like you and I have had to practice this as well. And so I'm hoping that this episode also gives more insight into like the male's husband's brain, but also empowers the woman and the mom to be able to advocate for herself more easily.
Yeah.
Let's dive in.
I'm all for it.
Okay, so number 1, the first question is, from your perspective, why do you think so many husbands hesitate or don't immediately support their wives in getting pelvic floor and core rehab in pregnancy, postpartum, or investing in something like this?
Because they don't know what it is.
Okay, so do you even know what the pelvic floor is?
Not really. And you do this for a living.
And I do this for a living, and he's like, I don't really know what that is, right?
I mean, I know of a general anatomical region,
Sure.
but no.
Okay,
Other
so
than that, no.
do you think from your perspective, like it's hard for you to buy into your wife investing in something that you don't even understand?
Yeah, like anything, it's gonna. If I'm not educated on it, I'm kind of deferring to you to educate me on what it is, why it's needed, how much it's going to cost, what other options are there, pros, cons. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because chances are, I'm not going to go out and start spending time researching it on my own to figure out, hey, what's the best option for you?
Yeah, that makes sense. So in your opinion, it's more clear communication, like being specific about how I communicate why I need it, what's going on. Because if you don't even know that I'm struggling or that I have issues, then of course you're not going to be actively looking for it and seeking it out.
No, I mean, I think, you know, to poke fun at ourselves, men are pretty dumb in the sense of like, we need to know exactly what to do,
Mm-hmm.
when to do it. We need extreme clarity. So if you're having an issue, it needs to be clearly communicated to the extent of, hey, something needs to be done about this, not tomorrow, not next week. This isn't something that we can revisit next summer.
Mm.
It's, hey, this is something that's really bothering me. I need to focus on this. We need to divert some funds to this because it's affecting me to a level that, is, I think, extreme, and it probably is getting back or impacting the husband or the relationship in some regard too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If mom is struggling and mom feels not confident in her body, or she's having to deal with pelvic floor dysfunction like leakage or heaviness or pain, especially pain with intimacy with your partner, right? Like it's obviously impacting the partner. It's impacting the mother to care for her children. It's impacting the mother to show up at her job the best that she can and the ability as well. So the
Yeah.
one thing you said that I actually think was really important that I didn't even think about is the urgency, because you said like the clarity that moms need to bring or women need to bring to their husbands is very specific. Like this can't be something I deal with next year. This is something I really need support with now.
Yeah. And to emphasize clarity, I mean, like literally spell it out because we're not going to get it otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, the urgency is, if this is something that's important to you, to what degree? Because my list of priorities is going to be different than your list of priorities. The
Right.
things that I'm thinking about day to day, hey, maybe we need to, cut the grass in the backyard, or I need to clean the barbecue. Like those things are of a level of importance that's going to differ from you.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not communicated to me of the level of importance, then I'm just not even going to think about it.
Yeah.
Or if it's just, a side comment, hey, this is something I've been thinking about, or hey, I went and talked to someone about this today because something's going on. Okay. I mean, that's cool. Like, how'd it go? But I'm not going to, set other things aside and prioritize it if I don't know that it's something that really needs to be focused and prioritized, not just for you, but for me also to support you.
Yeah. Yeah. That goes right into the second question is, what do you think women could communicate differently so that their husbands truly get how much they're struggling and like how this is impacting their daily life? And before you answer that, I think you kind of did in the last part, but we can dive into it even deeper. You also really went more in depth of not brushing it aside, not making it a side comment like, oh, I talked to somebody today about my pelvic floor, because I had a baby and like, I need to regain some strength. Like that is not having a more direct, serious conversation about it and really sitting down with your partner and having that more thorough, direct, communicative conversation that needs to have happen. That's more of like downplaying it yourself. So
Yeah.
from your perspective as a husband, how do you think women could communicate differently so that you really understand how much they're actually struggling day to day, week by week, month by month?
I mean, paint the picture,
Mm.
make it get into the uncomfortable, awkward details
Mm-hmm.
to fully understand, to help the husband understand how it is affecting you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I threw my back out the other day, and
Yeah.
it's like every moment of every day, I'm affected by the pain in my back or the inability to do something. So if a mother's feeling that, I mean, yeah, of course a husband's going to want to support her, but he just doesn't know the extent of how it's affecting her. So she needs to really get into the details, because again, a man's not going to understand. He's just not going to think about these things. Really, we can't relate to it.
Right.
So if it's impacting you to that degree, you need to sit down, have this super detailed conversation with him to be like, no, this is Like it's not just a small thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this or I'm doing this. I'm not able to do this. Specifics. Be very, very specific.
Yeah. And specifically, how is it impacting your mental and emotional health? Specifically, how is it impacting the way you care for the children? Specifically, what are the things that you want to be doing that this is limiting you from being able to do? Whether that's
Yeah. All that
backpacking,
stuff.
carrying the kids on the back, or whether that's being able to get back into strength training or whatever it might be. You also like, okay, yeah, you threw out your back the other day, but I could visibly see with my eyes that you were struggling. Pelvic floor dysfunction is very silent. So a lot of men
We
definitely
can't
are.
hold it together. We're just big babies when it comes to that.
Well,
We can't hold.
Okay, that too. That definitely is true. I think men exaggerate their injuries a little bit.
Uh,
I also threw out my back 3 weeks ago and didn't make such of a deal about it. But okay, like backing up, we visibly can see you hurt. Like if it's, if you go have a knee surgery and you're in a brace and you have, surgical incisions and all of these things and you're on crutches, people can tie the association to, wow, she's really injured. She needs help. She needs to rehab her knee. She needs to
yeah.
rebuild her strength. I can see her. I can't even see her hobbling around everywhere. I definitely know she can't pick up the kids because I can see she's not even putting weight on her leg because her knee is injured. Pelvic floor dysfunction is so silent. So what that means is that women are literally peeing their pants when they cough and they sneeze, or when they other exercise, they're utilizing panty liners, or they feel this like bulging sensation happen at their pelvic floor, which really limits their activity, their ability to do things, or their back pain or their SI joint pain or pain with intimacies, which is wild that some women don't tell their husbands that. I mean, that's so crazy to me. But I have
Yeah.
talking to women on calls that I've asked them, does your husband know that this is affecting you? And she's like, well, kind of. I just kind of avoid intimacy.
So that's a no.
So that's a no. She's
It's
not
a hard no.
clearly communicating it. But then I can imagine if she's avoiding intimacy as a husband, you're probably like, what, my wife doesn't find me attractive? She doesn't want to be intimate with me, when really maybe you're just having pain. She's having pain.
Or she's just completely dealing with it
Mm,
silently, or like you say, so that she doesn't let it impact him because she's nervous of how that's going to impact him. So like if that's the case, I mean, you probably wouldn't be married if you didn't think your husband was going to support you in some regard.
yeah.
So it's just a matter of having the conversation, because he's going to support you.
Mhm,
He's going to want to support you. He's going to want to figure out how to support you.
mhm.
But he just doesn't know that he needs to do that if he doesn't know that anything's going on. If it's an invisible condition
Right,
and you're not making it known, or you're downplaying it,
right. Because women do that. Women will
then
downplay
he's
it.
going to totally just, push it to the side, because
Mhm.
there's plenty of other things that he's thinking about that
Mhm.
are of more importance.
Yeah, especially when we think about investing, right? Like,
Mhm.
typically pelvic floor and core rehab, when you're working one-on-one with a doctor of rehab, with someone who has a master's degree in pelvic floor and core rehab, and they specialize in this, it's not cheap, right? It's not like $20 to be able to get expert level support in a one-on-one customized fashion for that level of service that is needed. So it is something that couples do have to prioritize, and they do have to, put the funds aside ahead of time to prepare for that, or budget for it, figure out how they can move money around,
Yeah.
but be proactive in that too. So I hope that I want you to send this episode to your husband, because I think it's also good for them to be able to start learning about this, especially if you're in the preconception or early pregnancy stages. Send this to them so that they can start becoming emotionally and mentally aware of what you could or could not be struggling with. And also just from a financial standpoint, to make sure that you guys are prioritizing this together.
Yeah.
Right. But I think, just to recap from what I'm hearing from you, is very clear and direct communication,
More than you think.
more than you think, down to the specifics. Like, I have to change my panty liner 3 times a day. And
Well, not only that, but like, what does that mean?
yeah.
Right? Like, how does that make you feel?
Mm,
That's not normal. I mean, these are the other things, is men don't know what's normal and what's not normal. So spell out how that makes you feel. Like, does it make you feel embarrassed? Does it, like, do you have
Right.
to find time to go to the bathroom when you can't do that because, now your kid's jumping on the trampoline and you can't go with them because you're worried about stuff going on?
mhm.
Like, not just not just spell it out, but how that makes you feel and how it impacts you.
Yeah, I love that. Like tying it back to the emotional impact that it's having on you. How
Yeah.
did you feel if you peed your pants when you coughed or sneezed?
I mean, of course, I mean, that would be super unfortunate, but it'd be like, I mean, more than anything, I think it'd be embarrassing. It'd be a huge
Mm,
embarrassment. It would affect the decisions that I make around the activities that I do. You know, I'd be conscious of where we go. Hey, is there a bathroom around?
yeah,
Like, do I need to bring a change of clothes? Like, all these things would come into mind. So it would almost be like a thought that is going on in the back of my mind constantly, whereas I wouldn't want to think about that. Certainly if it's something that isn't normal, it's like it's something that could be fixed.
it can definitely be
Yeah.
solved. Yeah, and women are literally living like that. Like it's constantly ruminating in the back of their head. They're packing panty liners, they're packing extra changes of clothes in the diaper bag. They're one as soon as they get to the park or the store, they're looking to where the nearest bathroom is. It's like a trauma response in a way. It can create this like PTSD effect. But
Yeah.
there
No one would want that.
right? I mean, but yeah, I think it's also good for you to say that out loud too, because I feel like for other husbands to hear that, right? Because if they were to put themselves in their wife's shoes, if their wife was struggling to that degree, of course, which we have absolutely helped clients be able to reverse those concerns in as little as 2 or 3 months, completely go from having to rush to go to the bathroom, peeing your pants, constantly changing your panty liner, bringing the extra change of clothes to like not having to deal with that in 3 months.
Yeah. That's huge.
And by being able to have the husband put themselves in their perspective, imagine if you had to do all of these things. Now you're physically, emotionally, like somatically taking on what it would actually live like that. And then you finally understand, I'm sure.
Yeah. But if you're getting pushback, like don't use that as a weapon against him. Like, how would you feel if you had to do
Sure,
this? Like,
sure.
he's not going to respond well to that. But as a way of understanding, being able to relate, me having to do that would be not fun. Yeah.
Not fun. Yeah. Well, and I think that, that's so important too. What you brought up is like not coming at the husband of like a defensive way. Like, well, you didn't have this baby. I did. Like, you don't even have to think about these things, but like calmly bringing your concerns, your desires to your spouse. Because what I find is majority of the time when I talk to women on calls like these about inquiring about working with us one-on-one or in our programs, they are actually the ones that hold themselves back the most because I would ask them the same question. I would say, okay, totally understand. You need to talk to your husband. I would talk to my husband as well if I was going to invest in a program like this. Totally understand that. What do you think your husband's going to say? You know him better than I do. I'll ask that question right back to them. And majority of the time, the mom or the woman will say, I think he'll be supportive
Totally.
because they know deep down, like their partner loves them. Their partner would want them to be supported.
Yeah.
So then I asked them, okay, well, if he's going to be supportive or they're going to be supportive, what's holding you back? So then do you know this? I'm sure you do know this because we've had many open conversations about this, but typically like moms will find guilt or they'll feel bad or shame around taking finances from the family or having to divert funds, or they feel their kids need new clothes or their kids need X, Y, and Z, or daycare or school costs money. And so they feel guilty or bad taking those funds or setting aside those funds to invest back into themselves. So what would you say to maybe a mom or even a husband, or like if you're going to speak to the husband, what do you think that you would say to be able to help them know that they shouldn't feel guilty about that investment?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at it. Like, number one, if finances are really a constraint,
Mm-hmm.
then that's something to be mindful of. But again, if a husband really knows the extent of the impact and how much it's affecting his wife and their relationship, he's probably going to be willing to sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
and say, you shouldn't feel guilty. Like, if anything, we'll cut back in other places. This is something that's important. I want to make sure that I can support you and we can resolve these issues. So let's work together to figure out how we can do this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think if we were in that situation, I would be willing to sacrifice
Mm.
if, I would be willing to sacrifice expenses for the sake of you feeling better.
For a temporary
I would rather
investment,
divert
yeah.
funds to you than to continue on just spending money on myself or whatever the case is.
I think most husbands would,
Yeah,
right?
I would think.
And maybe they just don't communicate that so openly, so their wives don't know that that's how they feel.
Well, finances, yeah. So finances are an emotional subject. They're not
Mhm.
like widely discussed, certainly outside of the relationship, but even inside the relationship, depending on how it's structured and how finances are kind of organized within the household. But um, again, I think if a husband clearly knows how much of an issue this is, he cares about his wife, he wants to make sure that she's able to get the support that she needs, he's probably going to be willing to work with her to find a solution.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if she's able to clearly communicate specifically what's going on,
Well,
how it's
yeah.
impacting her on a day-to-day basis. And if it's not now, it's a plan, right? I think that's the other thing that, I advocate for couples and moms, husbands and wives to communicate is like have the hard conversation. Talk about the details. Make sure that your husband really knows what you're struggling with, how it's affecting you day to day. And hey, if it's not now, maybe it's 3 months from now. Maybe just have the conversation to start the door, like creak the door open, if you will, and then you can better formulate a plan for how you're going to be able to support yourself. If not, the husband's like gonna get creative, like you said.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, especially, I mean, I can't speak for all programs and all pelvic floor therapists, but when we work with moms that we really know that we can help, and it's really just a matter of them taking the leap of faith and trusting themselves and making the investment, because the rest of it will, resolve itself. There's so many different creative payment plans, creative financing options. There's so many different options for families that I feel really strongly about providing for families so that finances don't come between them literally stopping peeing their pants and feeling the embarrassment and the shame and the lack of confidence and the ability to move as they want to. I don't want finances to ever be the main hindrance to that.
Yeah.
So I know I can speak for our programs. It's like we have so many different financial resources and plans. And I think that's so important too when you're looking into your options as a mom. Ask about those things, right? Because then you can go back to your partner, your husband, and say, hey, look, this is what it's going to cost, but these are the other alternative payment plans they have. So you come with more ammo, if you will. You actually come with more information to equip yourself of the question not being, can I do this versus this is really important to me. How can we make this work?
Yeah. And I mean, if you guys have insurance, he's probably going to be thinking about, hey, we've got insurance to pay for that. But if it's an out-of-pocket expense, he needs to understand how that's different, between the type of care, the setting, all that stuff. Whether you guys are using HSA funds, whatever the case is. Because again, he's just going to think about it from the stance of how important is this?
Sure.
How expensive is it going to be? And if the importance level is high, if it's enough of a priority, okay, well, let's divert funds to it. Can we divert funds that we've already set aside? Can we use insurance? No. Okay, well, can we use an HSA? No. Okay, well, do we have other cash available? Well, if not, and it's still super important, how do we then plan for that?
Yeah, and you bring up a great point because obviously we don't take insurance, and that's for a really solid reason is we're not able to provide the level of same care and expertise and experience that our program does. And we work with so many moms that have tried the pelvic floor PT insurance route. They've tried multiple providers and their knowledge bank isn't big enough. They don't hybrid expertise or specialize in pelvic floor rehab and return to strength training. And so they find that the typical insurance-based route isn't enough support and level of care. So I think that's also important for moms to know of like when you are investing outside the health insurance, you're expecting and you're investing in a different level of support and care.
Oh, I know that personally from going through physical therapy myself. So like,
Totally.
you're just a number.
Yeah. And so It is different, right? Like
It's very different.
it's very different. So it is a different, and sometimes, it works and sometimes it doesn't. And right, we have to make those sacrifices. We have to make those changes. And if both people are on board with that, then that's what it is, right? But I think it's important to understand like the investment is different. It is a
Oh, yeah.
different level
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
care, support, programming, whatever it might be, which is going to yield a different outcome. Right. So sometimes, when I speak to moms, I'm like, yeah, go try if that's what you feel like you need to do. They go for 3 or 4 sessions and they're like, I spent 30 minutes with a tech and I just did the same exercises of Kegels and bridges and they did an internal exam. And it's the same thing every time. And, it's just basic exercises. And it's like, that's what you're going to get with insurance-based
Yeah.
pelvic floor PT. And that's unfortunate, right? But if you want to solve it fast and you want to solve it quicker and you want to feel more supported through the process, then majority of the time you're investing outside the health insurance model.
Yeah. I mean, we could go into a whole discussion around how insurance is messed up. And
It's a game.
yeah, I mean,
I know we make a lot of investments outside of health insurance because it comes down to a value standpoint too, right? And I think both people have to value that. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just like what during this season, this is what we value most and being able to be clear and communicate that too.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 5 questions that were submitted by my community at your Postpartum PT and
Okay.
our community because like this is a hot topic. It is really challenging to get the husbands on board for getting the women and the moms support for pelvic floor and core rehab. Okay, so I
believe it.
you believe it. Okay, so I have 5 questions that were submitted. So I'm going to speak from their perspective. Okay. My husband says I should just do YouTube workouts or Kegels or just like basic exercises that you can find online for cheap. He doesn't understand why I should pay for a program and why I need one-on-one support. How can I help him see that this isn't the same thing?
Okay. I tried to fix our doorbell using YouTube and it's still broken.
Yeah.
So I like YouTube too. I like to research stuff on there and figure out how it's done. I think it's a little bit different in a medical setting.
Right.
And I think it's also just, the application of knowledge. Like, sure, there might be some information there that you can distill, but if you don't know what you're looking for because you don't have the background in it, you're not going to know what is applicable to you and what isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, there's like a whole encyclopedia of information out there, but that's the point of having a coach is basically saying, okay, well, you need to do this type of exercise or this type of protocol
Mm-hmm.
because it applies to you and your specific condition.
Yes. So
If you're just typing in pelvic floor stuff on YouTube, like you're going to get a ton, but it may make it probably makes your situation worse.
it could make your situation worse. We've had a lot of people who've tried YouTube for a long time and they're like, I don't know, it's not getting any better
Yeah.
or like it made it way worse. Just because they're not specific to that particular person, right?
Well, and you can find the answer for anything that you want if you really search for it.
Sure.
But it's just understanding how to apply that information.
Yeah, customized accountability too, right? So you can watch a YouTube video on how to fix the doorbell, but our doorbell's still broken. So either there was like a lack of follow through on the YouTube video.
No, I tried everything.
Well, let me finish.
I tried everything.
Or you needed like an electrician to come out and actually look at our specific doorbell and our specific
Yeah, I just don't know what I'm
wires.
doing.
Right. So I guess that you didn't even know this question was coming up. So this is hilarious. But you tried to use YouTube for the doorbell. It wasn't customized to our specific doorbell. You tried many different things. It didn't work. And so now we need to hire someone. So put
At
it on
some
your
point.
to-do list.
Yes.
Okay. So that's why that's actually a pretty relatable way to communicate maybe to your husband. Like, have you ever tried to look up something on YouTube and it's like fixed it from, especially medical, right?
Yeah, I would not trust YouTube for medical advice.
Okay. Okay.
Unless you know exactly, unless you've already gotten a diagnosis or I don't know. I put a disclaimer in there. I wouldn't trust
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
YouTube for medical advice.
It's great starter information, right? Like the power of the interweb is amazing because it provides some education, it provides some starter information, but typically there's going to be a lack of customization or a lack of accountability and follow through.
I think it's great for like education,
Mhm.
right? So like, what is the pelvic floor?
Sure.
What could be the likely cause of what I'm dealing with?
Sure.
But treatment or, how to solve something, that's always going to come down to your unique situation and your body and all those other things.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the next question. I've brought it up to him and he says, "You look fine to me." How do I get him to understand that even though I look okay, I still feel broken inside my body?
I think that's a great example of he just doesn't know
Mhm.
how you feel, you know,
More detail,
because it's an
please.
invisible,
Yeah.
yeah, if it's an invisible issue,
Mhm.
then he's not, and again, you have to be very clear because he's not thinking about it. It's not even on his radar.
Mhm.
So if it's not a problem that he can see, or if it's not a problem that you've told him that it's of greater concern,
Mhm.
he's probably going to it's probably going to go in one ear and out the other,
Mhm.
and he's going to forget about it later that day.
Yeah.
So it just has to come down. It has to come down to communication and importance. And it can't be like just a one-off side conversation. It needs to be, hey, no, I know we've talked about this in the past, but this is really affecting me. Um, you know, I know that it may not appear that way, but this is something that's not normal. Like I have to figure out because I'm thinking about it throughout the day. It's impacting us and how,
Mhm.
whatever the situation is, he needs to understand the level of importance.
Yeah. More tangible, specific communication.
Yeah. And at that point, he's still brushes it away, then like that's another
You
issue.
can kick him to the curb. No, just kidding.
Yeah. But
Just
chances
kidding.
are he just doesn't know.
Most of the time, they just aren't uneducated. They don't truly understand how it's impacting their wives because I really do believe that most husbands really want you to thrive. They want you to feel confident. They want you to feel good in your body. They want you to show up as the best mom and as best wife and as best for yourself as much as you can. There's just a gap in the knowledge, a gap in the understanding of how it's actually affecting you. And oftentimes that's because right? Like women will dismiss it or they'll kind of brush it to the side and maybe not have that hard conversation or be more open and vulnerable about it.
They don't want to be a burden on the family, or they think
Right.
it's a burden, whatever the case
Yeah.
is. But no, I mean, guys think about all sorts of other things. They're not
Hmm.
thinking about your pelvic floor dysfunction
They're
because number
probably
one, they don't
not.
even know what that
Totally.
is.
Right.
And if it's not something that you've clearly communicated to them, then
Totally.
they're thinking about football, or they're thinking about the kids and school picture day or the sport. I mean, whatever the case that guys think about,
Yeah.
that's what they're thinking about.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Number 3. Every time I bring up my symptoms, he changes the subject or jokes it off. How do I get him to take me seriously without it turning into an argument?
Um, you're probably, sounds to me like that you're probably right on the edge of that like uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and he's probably using humor
Because he's uncomfortable.
as a way of getting through or like diverting the conversation
Yeah.
because he feels uncomfortable.
Mm.
Um, so depending on, how you manage communication or how he manages conflict or those awkward conversations, again, he's not allowing you to get to a point where you're able to communicate how that affects you.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to lean into it
Yeah.
further and get uncomfortable and be like, no, I'm serious. Like this, haha, that's funny, but like, no, really though, this
Mm-hmm.
in serious, can we really talk about this? Because, um, it is something that I want to address.
Yeah, and I think it's really common for women and men, right, to kind of brush off topics that are more vulnerable with humor, right? Like they laugh about it, and even women make jokes about it online. About how they sneeze and they have to cross their legs, and like, haha, it's so funny. My kids did this to me, and humor can go so far to make it a little bit more relatable and like, oh, we're connected via humor, but also if there is desire to really solve it, then it is going to be, great point to like really just got to lean in a little bit more and have that more serious conversation. Okay, we briefly touched on this fourth question, but I think we should dive in a little bit deeper. She says, I feel guilty spending money on myself because everything we do right now is for the kids. So how do I stop feeling selfish for wanting this kind of support? And how do I bring that to my husband?
Well, you are worth being supported. So there might be some self-work that you need to do.
Yeah.
It's natural as a parent to want to give everything to the kids, both financially, time. It's easy to devote all that stuff to the kids, but certainly if you're suffering or in pain or discomfort or whatever, you are worth being treated and having those symptoms resolved. You know, if you got a cancer diagnosis or something like that, obviously you're going to prioritize that.
Sure.
So like, that's an extreme example,
Yeah.
but like, it's not to say that you should just never think about this until your kids are out of the house. Just make sure that you can vocalize, hey, this is something that is important to me. If you think it's a high enough priority to where you're asking that question, chances are that it's something that you think about enough that you should be prioritizing yourself.
Yeah. I think it's hard too sometimes for parents to think about like ROI, right? Return on investment, because they go to their job and they get a paycheck. And so it's worth it for them to go to the job because they're going to get the paycheck in return.
Yeah.
Right. And when you invest in your health, it's hard. Like there's no tangible like financial return on that investment, but the investment, the return on investment is how you literally feel in your body, your confidence, your mental and emotional health, your ability to be more active. And so, the way that I think about it too is there is even studies that show that if the mother is more active in the household, the children will naturally also be more active. If we have two active parents in the household, your children are like significantly more likely to be active themselves. There's so many studies on the mother's mental and emotional health directly impacting the children's nervous system, mental and emotional health. If we're not able to pick up our kids or we're not able to play with those kids, like, do we think that that will also impact our children as well, and how they view us as being integrated into their lives and, being with them in the day-to-day and doing the fun things like jumping on the trampoline. So I think there's also an element there for the woman and the husband to view this as a ROI in her health too, and being able to switch out of that guilt, spending money on myself, but really that's the thinking about it in the negative versus the positive, right?
Yeah, and I don't mean to be insensitive and say like, oh, you just got to get over it because you're worth it, but like, no, I think that's a very real thing that people feel. I mean, I feel that from time to time too about spending money on myself. But if it's something that impacts you, if you're thinking about it throughout the day, chances are that impact carries over to your kids too. And so, like you say, how could you show up better as a mother, as a wife? How could you show up more for the household if you weren't having to think about this?
Yeah.
So, like you say, the ROI I think is a big aspect.
And that growth mindset too of knowing that you're worthy of the investment and it's going to double down for you.
Oh yeah,
it's going to come back for you. Yeah. Okay. Last question before we wrap up. What's something husbands can do even if they don't fully understand what's something husbands can do if they don't fully understand how to support their wives during the postpartum recovery? I think what she's trying to say is like, how can my husband support me more in my postpartum recovery? Or how can I educate him to support me more in my postpartum recovery? I think that's what she was trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, they can always go out and educate themselves around stuff, but I doubt they're going to do that.
But they can. If you're listening to this as a husband, take ownership, and your wife is carrying this child. Your wife is birthing this child. Your wife is recovering from this child. The least you could do is also do some research yourself and advocate for her. You can YouTube it. But like husbands can play a part in educating themselves. I even had a husband the other day. I never told you this, but I got a phone call on my phone, right? From someone who found us locally on my phone, obviously. I know you just laughed at me. Okay, I got a phone call from a husband that's wife was postpartum, and he said he was calling around to look into appointments, availability, pricing. I'm like, wow, I was so impressed.
Yeah.
What a rock star, right? I called him back and I was like, first and foremost, I just want to commend you for being an active participant in your wife's recovery. So
you can do that.
You could definitely.
You could do that. That's take notes.
Right, take notes. That's a good one. We're not having any more babies, or else you could take notes.
Definitely not. Yeah, I think you can get as involved as you want to. Mm-hmm. Doing your own research, calling around.
Yeah.
Just asking your wife what she needs.
Perfect. Just opening the conversation for her, because she might feel nervous to have that conversation. And the husband can say, hey, I was doing some research. Like, I've heard that, sometimes pelvic floor and core rehab and pelvic floor therapy can be helpful. Do you feel like you need that? Would that be helpful for you? So really looking out for her and being supportive in that. Yeah.
I mean, sounds like she's got an A player already. So,
well, no, this is advice we're giving her.
Oh,
she's asking.
Yeah, I think any of those things.
This has been really helpful.
I do.
You did great. A+. You're an A player as well. And I hope this has really helped moms trying to see, like, get inside the husband's brain a little bit and understand maybe how they need to communicate, how they can improve communication, how they can be more specific and lean into the vulnerability. But I also hope that if you are a mom listening to this, because literally the podcast is called What About Mom? I'm sure I don't get too many men or husbands listening to this, but send this to your husband as well, so that
you can listen to this. That's another one.
You can listen to this episode. He can be supportive to you by listening to this episode and being more educated and empowered on like how to support you as the mother that just birthed the child, and taking more of a active step in that direction. So this husband is for men and women, for wives and husbands, for moms and fathers, to feel more educated and empowered on how to support each other, how to improve communication, so that mom is getting the support she needs in pregnancy and postpartum.
Love it.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.